20th in the coaches poll, 21st in my top 25 and 1. You've got San Diego State 8th in your top 101. I have no objections, but I'd like to hear the explanation. Provide an explanation, please.
Probably going to be a top 10 defensive team in the country, and I think that they will separate enough within the Mountain West that they are going to give themselves a real shot at a very healthy seed and as a comfortable favorite in what I think will be an improved Mountain West overall. You know, I did bump them up a little bit aggressively. I don't deny that whatsoever, but Brian Dutcher's done a wonderful job here, and the schedule I think will enable them to have a good chance at scooting up in the rankings. They've got BYU at home the first Friday of the season. It's a game it should win. Now, if BYU goes in to the show and wins, then yes, we're going to have to recalibrate. Then they play at Stanford. That's a good road opportunity against a good Stanford team, like kind of good. We'll see. That they certainly should be able to win. Then they have Maui. We talked about every damn team that's playing in Maui in our summer shoot-around. And they open with Ohio State, and they can win Maui. So I looked at it thinking if they do win Maui, they will be an unquestioned. If they get out of Maui and haven't lost by that point, like then they have UC Irvine, who's actually like a top 2, top 3 team in the Big West. They get out of November without a loss, they're going to be ranked in the top 10. It will be inarguable at that point, considering they'll have a road win. They'll have a 4-0 road and neutral record at that point against teams that enter top 60 or better in KenPom in the preseason. That'll be 5 total wins, basically 5 quad 1 wins. So that's basically why. They also have a neutral against St. Mary's on the non-con. And then once we get into Mountain West play, obviously we'll see what happens there. They have Matt Bradley back. I do think he's a top 40 player in the country. Nathan Mensah, there's so many good bigs this season, as we've talked about, and we will continue to mention on the pod because there are so many critical 4s and 5s in this sport.
I forgot to tell you. I'm not going to mention any bigs anymore.
Well, that's going to be a problem.
I'm done talking about them.
You're done.
Yeah, boycotting them.
It's going to be an issue.
I'm boycotting Kanye West and all college basketball bigs.
I don't. If you gave me which one of those, I don't know which one I would have picked you were more likely to do. But that is refreshing to know, nonetheless, my friend. Nathan Mensah is another big San Diego State important, and then they've got a Seattle transfer, Darian Trammell, who. He was good at the WAC level. You know, he's going to jump up a level. Let's see what he does here. So, yes, was I more aggressive than pretty much anyone else on the Aztecs? I was. If you want to say they aren't justifiable as a preseason top 10 team, I understand that. But I went 8th on them, and they are the best non-Gonzaga, non-major conference team heading into the season.
I agree with that. And the reason I think you might look smart having them preseason top 10 is because if they do well in Maui and broadly speaking well throughout the non-league schedule, they're going to run through their league. I mean, they're so much better on paper than everybody else in the Mountain West Conference. You know, they, like you said, they bring back Matt Bradley, Nathan Mensah. They're returning 4 of the top 5 scorers from a team that got an 8 seed in the NCAA tournament. They're 19th at KenPom. Nobody else in the Mountain West is in the top 60. So this is a significant gap. That's not even true in the West Coast Conference. Like Gonzaga's top 3 at KenPom, BYU's 44, St. Mary's is 47. There's at least 2 other top 50 KenPom teams in the WCC. In the Mountain West Conference, 0 other top 60 teams. It is San Diego State, big gap, and then everybody else. This is a team, they were undefeated in 2020, deep into February. And then they became the best undefeated one-loss team in the country. And then the ridiculous pandemic robbed them of an opportunity. Dayton, San Diego State, both these teams had realistic Final Four aspirations that season, and then it's just over. And I remember thinking then, and I'm sure we talked about it, hey, yeah, this sucks for Kansas because Kansas was number 1 at KenPom, probably about to be the number 1 overall seed in the tournament. We could be talking about Bill Self as a 3-time national champion right now. But one of the points I made is, if you're Kansas, it stinks. And obviously, if you're a Kansas player out of eligibility or moving on, it stinks to just have your college career in that way. But Kansas will be good again, great again. Kansas is going to, under Bill Self, have Final Four teams a lot, or at least Final Four teams that are good enough to make the Final Four a lot. Do you ever get this back at Dayton? Do you ever get this back at San Diego State? And the answer to that question might still be no, but I do think it's interesting that just 3 years after those seasons were cut short, those incredible seasons from Brian Dutcher and Anthony Grant were cut short, here's San Diego State and Dayton, in a position to maybe have really special seasons again.
Now, this is one of my favorite storylines going into the season. We'll see if both these programs can live up to this. But yes, we talked SDSU. So Dayton, real quick, the 2020 redemption thing for both of these. Dayton was on track to be a 1 seed. San Diego State was on track to be a 2 seed when the tournament got axed there. And Dayton was one of the better mid-majors in the country last season, but it's so much of the roster returns that they're going to have a real good shot at having an at-large case. And that's what we're talking about with some of these teams on the upper echelon of all this. They're going to have, probably a 23 win season at minimum. Will Dayton, thanks to the return. Deron Holmes above all others. He is, 6'10", power forward, averaged 13 and 6 last season. Those numbers are going to get better. They've got one of the best named dudes in the entire sport, Kobe Elvis. He's back. Kobe Elvis.
Two Kobes.
They've got Kobe Elvis, Kobe Bray, both sophomores. Deron Holmes, sophomore. The other Malachi Smith, sophomore. Malachi Smith, by the way, has an ankle issue. Unclear if he's actually going to be able to go for the first week or so of the season there. He is a very good two-way point guard, a 6-footer. But Anthony Grant has a squad. Now we're going to get to his primary contender in the A-10. I'm not going to say Dayton's a lock, but Gonzaga, San Diego State, and Dayton are the 3 non-power conference teams that are preseason top 25 level. And I would label all of these teams as the ones that should not just have NCAA tournament expectations. They should have, Gonzaga obviously is on a tier to itself. So really talking SDSU and the Flyers, they should have, if not expectations, pragmatic hopes on winning multiple NCAA tournament games, at least one. They can certainly do that there. And yes, there is the strong redemption arc and plot line with both of these schools. We'll see if they can live up to it. Holmes is an awesome player. And I think Dayton fans know how good he is. A-10 fans know how good he is. Former MC of A-10 Media Day knows how good he is. But this could be the year. He's not going to be as good as, I don't think he'll be as good as Obi Toppin was. And as I wrote in my 101 capsule for the Flyers that went up last week, he's a different player than Obi Toppin, but he could have a season where if Malachi Smith isn't really, the true 1B to his 1A, then he could have, if Dayton top 20 level, maybe he's got an outside shot at and maybe be an All-American. He could have that big of a jump there as a sophomore because they rely on him that much.
Yeah, I prepped real hard on Dayton under the assumption I might be a post-pandemic MC, A-10 Media Day, but it just didn't work out. Have freshmen that are talented enough, physically capable of making big impacts right from the jump, and yet Dayton had a roster filled with that last night. Again, 4 of the top 5 scorers last season were freshmen. And I was a little concerned for Dayton fans, just will they be able to hold this together? Because when you've got young guys who have produced in a quality league for a quality program, the bigger schools are almost certainly going to start calling. And by calling, I mean recruiting and trying to get you to transfer up, if you will. But Anthony and the staff were really able to hold all that together. And I don't know if this team will be as good as the Obi Toppin team, but this team has clearly got a chance to win an A-10 title and get the type of seed in the NCAA tournament that sets you up to not just win a game, but maybe 2. And if you can win 2, might as well try to get 3 or 4.